Breaking alert now, China's defense chief has called on the military to get ready for combat. This story comes to us courtesy of Sputnik News. They are reporting that in a sign of growing escalation, China's defense ministry has called on the country's military, police, and general population to be ready to defend the territorial claims in the South China Sea. This is a very serious matter, my friends.
In a move a senior colonel said was part of an effort to normalize such drills and respond to security threats, China's Air Force sent bombers and fighter jets on combat patrols near contested islands in the South China Sea. After an arbitration court in The Hague ruled last month that China did not have historic rights to the South China Sea, the exercises come at a time of heightened tension in the disputed waters. According to state news agency Xinhua, Senior Colonel Shen Jinkei of the People's Liberation Army Air Force said the Air Force sent several H-6 bombers and Su-30 fighter jets to inspect the airspace around the Spratly Islands and Scarborough Shoal.
China's foreign ministry has reiterated that Diaoyu Island and surrounding waters are an inherent part of Chinese territory after Japan's government issued a protest over Chinese ships sailing in the region. Tokyo claims that some 230 Chinese fishing vessels and 6 Coast Guard ships sailed close to Diaoyu Island on Saturday. In response, China has stressed that China has indisputable sovereignty over Diaoyu Island and nearby waters and urged Japan to make constructive efforts to ease tensions in the region.
The National Rescue Team is composed of armed forces members and existing rescue professionals. On duty 24/7, their job is to deal with serious nuclear accidents in the country or abroad.
The rescue team has 320 members and 6 squads, including technical support, evacuation, rescue, radiation monitoring, decontamination, and medical treatment. The bases will conduct drills, training, and theoretical studies.
At the end of 2015, the Chinese mainland has 30 operational nuclear power reactors. 24 were under construction, more than in any other country in the world. The government plans to double current installed nuclear power capacity to 58 gigawatts by 2020. All provinces and cities where nuclear power plants are located have their own emergency response forces. And a nuclear safety law is expected to come out by the end of this year. But new challenges have come as China exports nuclear technologies to international markets.
Exporting nuclear technology doesn't mean you sell a nuclear power plant. It also involves nuclear safety and emergency systems. Our nuclear emergency response needs to be improved to meet the international level.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan will travel to Russia on Tuesday to meet with President Vladimir Putin. Relations amid the two nations are improving following Moscow's trade sanctions imposed 9 months ago, following Turkey's downing of a Russian fighter jet. The meeting this Tuesday comes as Ankara's relationship with the West continues to languish. Now, Turkey's relations with Europe and the United States are strained by the fallout from last month's failed military coup. Turkish officials insist that Erdogan's visit to Russia are not to be taken as a stepping back signal. Instead, the NATO member and European Union membership candidate are using this opportunity to rebuild and reapproach ties with Russia.
Tehran says it is free to take action against Washington in case it does not keep its promises within the nuclear deal.
Iran has proven to the world that it seeks dialogue to resolve different issues, including the nuclear program. If the U.S. acts differently in this regard, it is bound to lose. Tehran has predicted different mechanisms to prevent possible losses in case the JCPOA is not properly implemented.
Arif made the comment in the Azerbaijani capital, Baku. He said the P5+1 group of countries have committed to putting the JCPOA into action, and Iran seriously follows the issue. The Iranian foreign minister added that Washington's policies in implementing the nuclear deal are increasingly letting the Iranian nation down.
Iran says it has executed one of its nuclear scientists for spying for the U.S. That's according to that country's news agency. A spokesman for Iran's judiciary said the scientist had access to the nuclear system's top secrets and, quote, had gotten connected with our number one enemy, the Great Satan. This same scientist reportedly worked with the United States before returning to Iran and claiming he had been kidnapped by the CIA.
Just a few feet from the president, no matter where the commander-in-chief happens to be, a military aide carries a briefcase. It's nicknamed the football, and the power this satchel can unleash is legendary.
Immense, unprecedented power. The United States currently, right now, deploys approximately 900 nuclear warheads that are on the order of 10 to 20 times more powerful than the weapons that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
5 military aides, one from each branch of the armed forces, work in a rotation carrying the football. For 3 years, as a young Marine major, Pete Metzger carried the nuclear football for President Reagan. The responsibility can be nerve-wracking.
I wouldn't say I was on edge, but I was very, very, very focused on what I was going to do. I mean, the time is so short between alert and execution. You have to be ready any time for any moment. And that's why one of us was always in very close proximity to the president.
Metzger says there's a separate football for the vice president if the commander-in-chief becomes incapacitated. How does it compare to this? Bigger, heavier?
It's somewhat longer, a little bit wider, and somewhat heavier.
Inside the case, he says, there's communication equipment. Metzger won't discuss the other contents. But Bill Gully, a former director of the White House Military Office, described in his book 4 crucial components inside. A so-called black book listing strike options for retaliation if the U.S. is attacked with nuclear weapons. A book listing bunker locations where the president can be taken in an emergency. A manila folder listing procedures for the emergency broadcast system. And a small card with authentication codes to verify it's the president ordering a nuclear launch.
That is known as the biscuit. It's another interesting name.
Hillary Clinton says Donald Trump doesn't have the right temperament to be trusted with the nuclear launch codes.
Anyone who can be provoked by a tweet should not be anywhere near nuclear weapons.
Trump has vehemently refuted that.
North Korea has accused the United States of planning a preemptive nuclear strike. Accusation came after Washington announced that it would deploy its B-1 bombers in the Pacific for the first time in a decade. Strategic aircraft were to be deployed on a U.S.-controlled island of Guam. The U.S. military says Operation's routine rotation with its B-52 bombers. Now, tensions have been running high since North Korea carried out its 4th nuclear test back in January, followed by a barrage of missile launches. Now, the North has already threatened, quote, physical action over the planned deployment of a sophisticated U.S.-made anti-missile system known as THAAD to be deployed in South Korea.
Today at about 1:30, a bullet entered the Equestrian venue press conference room at Diodoro and landed on the floor. No one was hurt, but there was a New Zealander in the room at the time. We nonetheless took the situation very seriously and put our security into play. What this meant was that the team in the venue were advised immediately to stay in their current location and advised of the situation. Our New Zealand Police liaison also began communicating with the appropriate authorities. The New Zealand Police assessment is that it was an unintentionally discharged bullet, not fired intentionally. We are awaiting a final outcome to investigate and continue to remain in close contact with the appropriate authorities.
Group's Amaq news agency said on Twitter, Islamic State claimed responsibility on Sunday for an attack by a machete-wielding man in Belgium. The attack left 2 female officers seriously injured. Saying that he may have been inspired by terrorism shortly before the claim, Belgian prosecutors had identified the assailant as a 33-year-old Algerian, KB. He had lived in Belgium since 2012. The attacker was shot by police and died of his injuries. He was carrying a rucksack and shouted, "Allahu Akbar, God is greatest," during the assault on Saturday. No explosives or other weapons were found.
Syrian media have denied that the siege on the northern city of Aleppo has been broken, saying that the fighting is ongoing between the Syrian army and foreign-backed militants. Syrian forces are reportedly engaged in sporadic clashes with the militants in the southern edges of the city. The foreign-backed militants earlier claimed that they have opened a new route into Aleppo's eastern neighborhoods, breaking a 3-week government siege on the city. Meanwhile, the militants launched several rocket attacks on Aleppo, killing at least 10 civilians. Dozens more were also injured in the attacks.
Mourning, grief, agony and fear. These are few words that strikes our minds while looking at the ongoing situation in Indian-controlled Kashmir. Once described as the Venice of the East, that territory is nothing more than what many now describe as the Valley of the Living Dead. Friday witnessed a new wave of anti-India and pro-freedom rallies across the region.
After the Friday prayers, we held a peaceful protest against the recent killings, but as soon as we reached the main road, the military fired upon us with whatever they had. They are completely on a killing rampage, I can say.
Violence broke out at several places after Indian armed forces intercepted protesters and fired live ammunition, tear gas and pellets at them. More than 400 other protesters were wounded during Friday rallies. Some of them are in critical condition. Rights groups have called for an end to the use of lethal force, such as pellets.
Russia says it will resume flights to Egypt, but with strict conditions. It's due to present a further list of demands to Cairo this week. Moscow suspended its flights to the country after last year's bombing of an Airbus in the Sinai region, which killed all 224 people on board.
It's been reported that Russia is requesting a biometric automatic control system. It will be used to identify passengers by their fingerprints and other physical features. Moscow wants an isolated area dedicated only to Russian airlines. They're also requesting that Russian authorities be allowed to monitor airport restaurants and luggage and test flights and airport surveillance within its perimeters.
Paying the tab with a fingerprint. The idea has touched off interest among Japanese retailers, and foreign tourists can now try it out. The fingerprint payment service comes from Lakewood, a Tokyo startup. Travelers first register their fingerprint, passport, and credit card information at their hotel. Then, at the store, they can pay simply by resting their finger on a sensor. The service first started in Ikebukuro, a major shopping district in Tokyo. It's called biometrics authentication, verifying people's identity through their fingerprints, veins, or facial features. The global market is $2 billion a year and growing fast. Japanese companies like Fujitsu and NEC have advanced technology in the field that's used by border control agents and law enforcement. Until recently, they haven't done much consumer business. Now, the fingerprint payment service is spreading to restaurants and the theme park House 10 Boss. It's an alternative to mobile payment systems using smartphones from Apple or Samsung. In Back to the Future 2, people use their thumbs to pay for their cab ride. It may not be long before similar scenes play out in Tokyo, in real life.
Smartphone is held up to the user's eye and ID verification is completed in 1 second. Infrared light reads the iris and verifies the person's ID. A service that allows the use of automatic teller machines through iris scans alone is expected to be commercialized in the near future. Various biometric functions that sense veins in the palm, fingerprints, and even voices have begun to be applied in personal identification.
The Korean blockbuster Train to Busan, now in cinemas across the nation, has recorded over 10 million viewers in Korea as of Sunday evening local time, and that's just 19 days into its release. Now, Train to Busan follows passengers trying to stay alive while aboard a train with zombified passengers, believing that Korea's southwestern port city is safe from the nationwide zombie outbreak.
President Barack Obama has made history again by becoming the first president to openly express their abhorrence for a political successor. The most recent comment made by the current commander-in-chief took place in the White House Oval Office, where he publicly denounced his support for Trump. Julian Zelizer, professor of history at Princeton University, commented that this is as aggressive as we have seen. Obama is the strongest president in recent decades in terms of intervening in the campaign. He continued saying, not only is he active, he is making incredibly tough statements.
Thousands of people are participating in Buenos Aires LGBTIQ Festival this week. The week-long series of events is set to celebrate sexual diversity. Organized by Argentina's tourism ministry, the festival features drag queen shows, queer tango classes, sports activities, photography exhibitions, and business networking opportunities. In addition, the city's pedestrian road signs for the week are changed to 2 men and 2 women. Argentina is already a leader in LGBTQ rights. This week's festival is part of an intentional push to make the Pope's homeland an international hub for LGBTIQ activity.
Well, human-animal hybrids are now a reality as the government is lifting the ban allowing scientists to conduct experiments. Yes, this story comes to us courtesy of Bradford Richardson for the Washington Times. He is reporting that the National Institutes of Health is planning to lift a moratorium on funding for research of studying the effects of injecting animal embryos with human stem cells. God help us all.
The remnants of Hurricane Earl triggered deadly mudslides this weekend in Mexico. Earl made landfall as a tropical storm, dumping heavy rain that flooded rivers and creeks. At least 18 people were killed in 2 states.
In its wake, Tropical Storm Earl left complete devastation in communities throughout the Mexican states of Veracruz and Puebla. Soldiers helped dig through the damage after landslides buried homes, killing at least 18 people, including 1 small child. Over the past few days, Earl dumped up to 18 inches of rain in some areas and registered damaging wind speeds up to 80 miles an hour. Families trying to escape the floodwaters were caught off guard and unable to evacuate fast enough. Earl reached hurricane levels earlier this week as it moved through Central America, nearly submerging the town of San Ignacio in Belize and destroying a major bridge in Guatemala. Earl is gone, but the threat of severe weather still remains. Parts of central and western Mexico are expecting more rain as another storm is developing off the west coast. A lane right now that is raising red flags once again for potential mudslides and flooding.
The Perseid meteor shower could be nearly twice as flashy this year. Skywatchers could see as many as 200 meteors per hour under the darkest conditions. Astronomers call these increases in activity outbursts. The energetic show is thanks to Jupiter, in a roundabout way. All Perseid meteor showers come from the debris trail of Comet Swift-Tuttle, which orbits the Sun every 133 years. We see the Perseid meteor shower when Earth passes through the debris trail. Most years, it's not a direct hit. But researchers at NASA say Jupiter has been pulling the dust trails around with its outsized gravity. This year, Earth might run right through the middle of the streams, meaning more meteors will burn up in the atmosphere. And the show's already started. Meteor activity is expected to peak on August 11th and August 12th.